Your parties are the hottest ticket around.
They won't even give me a permit for the parties, man. They don't want me to throw the parties no more.
It's the after hours. I gotta go upstairs and do what I do.
I just kind of hit the wall and was just like, I can't do this anymore.
Savage! I'm a savage! Oh! I'm a savage! Whatever I want, I'm going to get!
Probably what was going through her mind is her career flashing before her eyes.
It was not a private event. Jennifer Lopez was here, Puffy was here. There were a lot of professional athletes here.
In the midst of all the recent controversy surrounding Puffy and JLo, a couple of resurfaced photos from Puffy's, let's see, circa year 2000 4th of July party has created some chatter online. So, image number one, we got a group photo. We've got Puffy in a bed alongside Jennifer Lopez, Aaliyah, Andre Harrell, Damon Dash, and a couple of other folks. And almost everybody's in white, except for Puffy, JLo, and Natane Adcock, which leaves you with some questions. Then there's also photo number two. We've got just JLo, just Puffy, and once again they are cuddled up on this oversized bed covered in white pillows that I don't think I'd want to take a blacklight to. Folks online have called the industry, and by the industry they mean Hollywood, kind of cruel after seeing all of this. Especially seeing Aaliyah. A lot of folks are saying poor Aaliyah, who had to deal with Puffy, had to deal with R. Kelly. Somebody else noting just how vulnerable and unprotected she was. They were just saying like, oh my gosh, poor thing, in the wrong spaces. The industry, the music industry, just so cruel how they treated her. Well, that's the thing. If you look at this, you're like, oh look, it's just like a cute photo, a little Polaroid moment. But it kind of doesn't really seem that way when you know the context, especially when you look at all the allegations against Puffy, which kind of creates a dark mark against all those once glamorous memories. Now folks, you'll notice I only said two photos. There is a third photo circulating online that is completely fake. It is AI. There's this black and white photo, looks like a cropped screenshot taken from security footage. It is an AI fake, so don't let it fool you, don't let it convince you. There is no security footage as of right now. Fans on social media though have been talking about all of this, especially the real photos. And a lot of folks are like focusing on JLo because there's some history there, there's some stories there. They want to know like, was she maybe left traumatized after her time with the rapper? Is that maybe why she has such a spotty dating and marriage history? So Puffy and JLo dated between 1999 to 2001. They had a roller coaster of a relationship, and folks want to know, what was going on? Like, this relationship was the peak of Hollywood culture at the turn of the century. Yes, it was a turbulent relationship, but hey, the two have said like, it is what it is. But they've also said a little bit more. Specifically, JLo has said quite a bit. She once opened up about the whole dating history, and she mentioned like they both met when they were on that like verge of stardom. JLo was releasing her debut album. Puffy helped produce it. She mentioned that he had become a mentor to her during that process. They had this crazy, tumultuous relationship that ended in a bang. Workplace romance, folks. It's a mess. Now, despite the hardships JLo has mentioned, she did learn a lot of lessons from Puffy. She mentioned how he gave her so many cues, he taught her so many things, and she mentioned, and has mentioned quite a bit, that she'll always be grateful to him for that. She loves the support she gets from him, and it's great that there's so much mutual respect and admiration and love in the air here, but you really have to focus on what's underlying, folks. And if you don't believe me about how important this relationship was, by the way, to pop culture, Puffy was JLo's date to the Grammy Awards in the year 2000, when she wore that green dress, the green dress that is the reason that we have Google Images. So when you look back at that, and once upon a time, Puffy did, he was chatting with Entertainment Tonight back in 2017, and he mentioned, he was like, wow, like we were just trying to step up our game, we were trying to use fashion to get ourselves over. You know, he thought it was gonna change the game, and he didn't know how big it was gonna be. Nobody did. But it was a great moment for JLo, and he said, and I quote, she deserves it. And I'm not saying she doesn't. Absolutely, get your iconic moment in history. But on the other hand, how is JLo describing this relationship? She mentioned that behind closed doors, she was crying, she was going crazy, she was going nuts. Her life was in a tailspin. She knew Puffy was cheating on her. And even though she never caught him, she knew, okay? Like, you can tell, there's signs. She said like he'd go out for a club. He wouldn't come back for like a whole night. And she's mentioned how it might have affected other relationships. So, ex-husband Chris Judd. We all remember this relationship, right? Yeah, it kind of affected that one. So she mentioned how back with Puffy, that was the first time she was ever with somebody who wasn't faithful, and it really kind of like messes with your mind. Like, you get really paranoid. And JLo hasn't exactly denied her crazy behavior, which, like, once again, totally valid. She would knock on hotel doors, and even though she can't remember specifics because it's been a minute, she didn't deny it. She mentioned that she had to leave Puffy because, like, she was having these thoughts of like, do I want to be home in 10 years, sitting, watching TV, wondering where somebody is at 3 in the morning? So once the rumors of the infidelity began to hit the press and the mainstream, that's when the two officially separated. And both parties have confirmed this. Apparently, you know, Puffy didn't say anything personally, but his publicist did. He was like, yeah, these two want to put all this to rest. Please respect our privacy. You know, the usual jargon. So, remember how I mentioned Kris Jenner a moment ago? That's who JLo rebounded with. It was a short marriage. JLo mentioned, like, it was totally a rebound. She's like, I met this sweet person, it's refreshing, but marriage isn't just about love. You know, she mentioned, like, she still loves Kris, but the two didn't have what it took to make a marriage work. Once again, folks, we need to consider that JLo is traumatized from being with Puffy. Some folks on social media think that's why she can't stay married. Apparently, Puffy would often threaten to divorce JLo, even though they weren't married, but he would say that all the time. JLo said, like, yeah, he would say, I want a divorce, I'm gonna be away, where should I send the papers? Because, well, they're both celebrities. They're both in the industry. They have crazy schedules. And after all of that, it kind of took a toll on JLo. And like, I get you, girl. Things like that can be exhausting. So while addressing her time with Puffy, JLo has told news outlets, like, it was scary, it wasn't a great time in her life. The two broke up a lot of times, they got back together, they broke up again. They weren't telling anybody about it, but just, it was emotionally exhausting. Now, another one of Jennifer's ex-husbands, Ojani Noah, previously spoke, like, about how he would get jealous when she was spending time with Puffy while she was married to Ojani. He was like, yeah, I'd ring Jen, ask why she's going out with him on dates, and she'd be like, oh, it's just business. That's what I'm being told I have to do. And her husband would get jealous and would be like, but you're married. Now, that marriage lasted less than a year, sadly. Folks online aren't the only ones speculating on JLo being traumatized from all of this. One of her good friends, socialite, photographer, and journalist Selma Francesca, is like, yeah, no, I don't think JLo ever got over Puffy. So, with all of the allegations lately, what does JLo have to say? Not a lot. Now, granted, JLo is going through another divorce. Ben Affleck. It's a whole thing. There's a lot of history there and a lot to unpack. But despite her silence, fans have been able to dredge up a lot of stuff from history. There was a Wendy Williams show interview where her mom was literally like, yeah, no, those two are never getting back together. I don't want to see him anywhere near my daughter ever again. It was like, okay, mama knows something. And like, rightfully so. When JLo was dating Puffy, those two got like arrested for crimes, serious ones. And those crimes are still being brought up in court to this day. So that's valid. And besides JLo, there's been a lot of photos of Hollywood stars that have gone viral online because they've been pictured with Puffy, and folks want to know what really went on at these white parties. And that's all for today, folks. See you next time.